No, been a lot of conversation of the Fairy Odd Parents, specifically A New Wish, specifically Cosmo and Wanda. How the conversations go, they keep saying they finally fixed Cosmo and Wanda. In a way, yes, but at the same time, then just no fix it. They rechanged their sort of personalities. Instead, just fixing it, they actually add some things to make the characters more adorable. Not adorable, but more complete. And that I found sort of fascination. Like how you broke its characters and refix them and remake them completely different and feels the same characters but more developed. I thought the only way to enter that is to see how each different era of console Wanda, how were they interpreted, creative, and how they changed over the years to become this new version of console and Wanda. In fact, there will be sort of four deeper eras. Well, there are five. That's the live action one, but I'm not gonna really talk about the live action because no one wants to talk about that. But besides that, before I continue of breaking down each single era of console and Wanda, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, do reviews, first impression cartoon theories, and sometimes if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you'll like how it's going, you'll like to help my channel, pull like, comment, and subscribe. That's all you need to do, the only thing you need to do. Of course, if you don't, that's fine, but you do thank you because I'm getting close to my main goal of 1,000 subscribers. And thanks to you, when people like, comment, and share, and also subscribe, helps my channel so much. Now let's talk about the differences of generations of the evolution of Cosmo and Wanda in Very Odd Parents. Now, the first era of season 0 is basically all that 9 shorts of Very Odd Parents before they actually got greenlit for their own series. This specific shorts was sort of surprising because there was like 7 minutes long or 9 minutes long. They basically were segments. But besides that, one of the biggest surprise is how dynamic both characters really were before the change of the main era. That's because Cosmo was sort of almost like a CC salesman, almost like a host or a late show kind of approach. That he was intelligent, but you do notice that idiotic things he does was always there. But one that was actually a little more different, that she's not the whiny, kind of sassy woman she really was. She was sort of sarcastic, but also she was the one who sort of breaking down the rules or the sort of situation they put themselves. But she wasn't smart either. This is the point a lot of people make that both of them were actually idiots. In fact, both of them need each other to actually kind of function how they actually work because sometimes Timmy asks for something or they lose something, they do something completely off the wall. In other words, like Cosmo lost his wand and they had to find it, but the only way to find it, you had to complete the whole set. So they make Timmy wear a dress. Why? Because it's a complete full set, but it's not Wanda's decision, it's actually Cosmo and Wanda's decision. They both make that decision, and it shows you how not really smart they actually are, but at the same time, kind of adorable and also ridiculous both are. Once again, very complimenting each other. In fact, Wanda wasn't fully naggy. She just sort of maybe sort of sarcastic or jealous about Cosmo doing something, maybe flirt with another girl or something like that. Once again, sort of kind of cliche of a woman if point a man point of view back in the early 80s and 90s, but they were clever about it. They were actually surprisingly clever because there was a joke that Wanda was, oh, you know how Wanda is takes so long. You know how women are, and you expect that was the joke, but it wasn't. The joke was Wanda was dressed taking so long is because she blinded herself because she's a pirate, and she covered her both eyes with eye patches. He says, "How will I look?" Once again, that was the punchline, and I did laugh. That was actually very clever because they know all the sort of kind of sitcoms tropes about the guys and women, so they know how to play with it. And remember, this is season 0, so I was really surprised how different dynamic they have of season 1 or season 0 in this case. But on top of all this, how talkative they are back and forth with each other, almost like a host like doing an interview or sort of a comedy sketch, trying to figure out how to fix it, but they keep messing it up. And that is just sort of kind of interesting. I mean, they did that the same other seasons, but this one really focused on it. Season zero, that was sort of the main focus, but asked that questions why they decide to remove that and rechange the characters on the greenlit show of season one. It's sort of obvious. It's sort of hard to continue that sort of charm, that sort of sales pitch and her assistant, and that is difficult if you don't know the formula because your good dynamic you need to understand how you pitch one something and the other one picks it up, or straight man or silly person. But that's the problem. Wanda wasn't fully complete. She was always missing a component, something add more to her that sort of maybe struggled to make this duo fully complete. You have that personality down, but not fully complete. And I think this is the reason why I decided to change that on the second era. Now let's talk about season one. About me, season four, season five. That's the part, the era that was sort of the highlights of Constable or Wanda. They sort of fully understand what they actually are because they sort of move Wanda to be the smart one and Constable be the dumb one, but more kind of UK type of humor. When being UK type of humor, how they usually rely on is sort of dumb one, a very sarcastic one, or very sassy one. And that's what sort of the dynamic that I very listed at me. And that was sort of the joke of the first couple of seasons of Cosmo and Wanda. The fact you define that Wanda does love him, but he does see his flaws in trying to maybe work with that, but a very sarcastic way. He's also the one who actually have common sense. Do you really think this sort of scenario works for you? But she never was yet flanderizing that type of character of Wanda. But the only problem is she always kind of was lacking something. Like they need one more thing to fully complete her. But even that, she did have her husband to play around with the comedy in conversation. Now, of course, to me, it makes sense what they did to Cosmo to make him more dumber because I said at the very beginning, instead of figure out the formula, a dynamic, and continue on. To me, it's making it easier, make it dumb, and make Wanda sarcastic because it just makes sense. It also make it more easier and keep going. But Kamto wasn't really fully dumb. He was naive. I think that the best way to describe it, or maybe lack a little bit common sense because of that naive is because people sort of misunderstand what dumb really is. It depends how you approach dumb that actually makes sense to the writer. There's certain people who are too naive, people who don't really care, or other times not fully aware of the situation was on and make him sort of dumb. And that's what decided of Console, make him a little naive, a little foolish because he's not fully grasping the situation. And that makes sense because one they said the one who reacts to every little thing that Console does. So the sassiness, but you feel their dynamic. Like you truly understand they actually truly love each other, but not over exaggeration. It's more realistic, more kind of nihilistic way of approaching a comedy point of view. Of original season one era, they were still funny, but I can see why they sort of struggled to continue that idea and decide to rechange it this format because it's more easier, more recognizable. It also not to make the kids sort of tired of both dynamics because it's sort of hard to let them inflated, charming, sort of sales pitch because you're doing more comedy for the adults. You realize, oh yeah, we aiming for little kids to make it a little bit easier for us and easier for them to really grasp their relationship. And it actually really does work. But I do admit I didn't miss the sort of sales pitch kind of approach of Cosmo and Wanda, the assistant and the salesman. But this version works too. You do enjoy it because in love Wanda to give different opinions or different explanation, the situation to actually make them work. But of course, I do miss one specific thing that I wish they followed through on the first era. The first era, they were both idiots, but they were sort of assessed with the rules. So I'm wondering why they dropped that, because that could be a very major thing about their characters. Like, they're not bright, but yet they can use the book for direction for themselves. That says so much about them. But to be fair, some of you saying they did use a lot. But if you rewatch the original season zero, you know what it means, that they were not that bright and they're sort of confused. They keep throwing stuff around and they keep writing the rules. And how they change that formula is all about roadblock by the rules instead of being addicted to the rules. And that's the format they decided to change. But yet, it still works, it's still charming, but yet, I said before, Wanda needed one more thing just sort of define her, because the rest of the comedy is for her to be a woman, and that's it. But they try to be clever and very creative, not all the time, but it does work what it was, especially how Cosmo really is, and sort of dumb but never naive. But besides, not naive, reverse that, not really dumb, but sort of naive. There we go. That's my mistranslation here. But besides that, that's sort of probably the most recognizable version of this. Now let's talk about the third era, the philanderization of them. Now, this era or third era is sort of very controversial because what they did to Cosmo and Wanda. So, according to Butch Hartman, the longer the series lasts, the more changes they have to make to keep it entertaining. One of the biggest problems having a long series is keep changing writers, especially all the writers who was the very beginning. They wasn't there anymore. To kind of introduce the new writers, understand the characters, they sort of sum the characters to the main core. The one who actually is completely dumb, and the other one is just sort of naggy. And that's the way they sort of approach Console and Wanda. This sort of end of the series kind of approach kind of ruined the characters, because you see the original couple eras, they did have a personality. They put the point of they actually truly love each other, even they have flaws. They actually truly understand, and the reason why they stay together, because they are fully complete. Even that one day is always missing one specific thing to make her fully complete, they still make it work, even using all the cliches or not. And this is a problem of this third era. They just flanderize what they actually well known and use it as jokes. This is the reason why all the dynamics of the final seasons just feel sort of flat. They almost ask that question, why they're together, because they just really don't like each other and keep arguing with each other, because one comes was so dumb and one that's just so sassy and unhappy. It just sort of doesn't make sense. Even they try to chase the dynamic, putting Poof and Sparky to add something to them to react to get more conversation, that did not help, because the new added characters doesn't really approve anything. In fact, they even add Zoe the end of the final season to maybe make the dynamic more interesting, to see what decision Cosmo and Wanda would do with a new kid. But yet they stayed the same. They never changed or explore the formula. They really try of Poof, but that looks kind of fruitless, because once again, it's not adding new character to change the dynamic. It sort of fixes the dynamic of the two main fairies. What their personality, the reason why they fall in love, why they actually have a very good chemistry, is because how they sort of play around all their own words, being cheesy and quirky, and yet they forgot that, because the very end is that one and sort of sassy one, but never fully embrace what they actually are and why they actually work. And this is sort of the frustration as fans. We know how they work. They know the dynamic. Even they sort of slanderizing that did not feel right, because they're not them. They don't know who the hell are they, in other words. And that's a sort of interesting. Of course, that's usually the problem of this third era. As the longer the series lasts, the more difficult to actually keep them interesting, keep the formula. He also kind of announce or show the new writers how to do it right. But the only problem is they don't have years watching the series to actually understand their personalities. And that's usually the problem. And decide to fix it, adding new characters, and just doesn't work because they didn't understand Console and Wanda as characters. And that is the frustrating thing. That you think, oh, we change it up, we adding new characters, but it doesn't work. And that's what's sort of the sad problem. Of course, the fourth and final era, they decided to sort of fix it a very unique way. Now, New Wish decided to do reset the characters, make sure to understand who is Console and Wanda and why they sort of love each other. And they figured it out partly because they're old fans who watched the original series, and also partly season zero is the fact they're both idiots complement each other to solve the answer of the situation. That both of them are very silly, but they do realize something I said at the very beginning that adds something very interesting to Wanda. That she became instead the assistant. She's the one who cover up or be the sort of entertainer of distraction of other people till Cosmo and Hazel do something behind the scenes. And that itself adds something more to Wanda that I'm sort of surprising that's what the thing was sort of missing for completing Wanda. That's little extra thing to understand. She also a little silly, and that little add addition to her complete her as a full character because on her own she used to be the person who followed the rules, the person who had common sense, the one who has control but also make a lot of sass. But that's the point. She wasn't right. She was also kind of dumb to Cosmo. So it compliment Cosmo, it compliment to Wanda. And that is the really interesting thing about Wish. They knew something was sort of off about Wanda, but they not yet figured out till right now. That says a lot about the writers of New Wish because the only way to figure it out is that you be compulsively obsessed, watch every single episode, or you're just an old fan who see the issue of Wanda. That just tells you a lot. But what they did to Cosmo, they sort of returned to almost his original self. Almost. I kind of wish they had the sort of salesman sort of pitch, but they removed that because I guess fans prefer the dumb, gullible Cosmo than anything else. But that's fine because you can see how Wanda responds to Cosmo and how Cosmo responds to Wanda. They're sort of kind of dopey, answer your questions, trying to answer it, but sort of completely maybe random and dumb. And that's fine. That's I'm okay with. I just wish they added two things: the sales pitch and also the rules. And yes, they have the rules in New Wish, but the original version of them, season zero, they were sort of kind of need the rules to put directions to the both characters of the fairies that because they don't have all the answers. Yeah, I wish they add that a little bit in there. They keep reading the book, figuring it out. But this is fine. Both of them reset to their new selves, and they're very enjoyable and also very dumb because both of them are not smart because how they answer the question or answer the witch, they also may understood the wish or do something completely ridiculous. But once again, that's what always be depicted of the semi new series of A Very Odd Parents. Of course, before I forget, yeah, I did forgot. They added three extra things to them. Two I really like, one I dislike. One of them actually are human. Console, one are completely human. But this is the odd part. They still don't understand how human actually work. But of course, some of you are asking, wait, they were human the last version of them. Timmy actually did wish him to be human for a little while. Yeah, but only of sometimes. In fact, I think it's been 7 times the total series of the original one. This one, they're actually permanent. And it says a lot about them because how still they very don't understand being human. And I thought that's sort of funny to see them walking around trying to pretend to be human, but yet they're still very confusing. that is just enjoyable. I think the second thing I really did enjoy is they actually live next door. Instead of living in a fishbowl, they live like next door like regular people. Says a lot how they sort of evolved in a way that it feels more natural to them to be sort of more realistic human than actually being like pets. And that's the thing I really struck me very well because it feels more like a family sort of dynamic if done that way. With Timmy feels like, oh, they just pets, things to entertain me. Once more, I use it as a metaphor, not visual, because Timmy did love Council Wanda. It's just sort of they use him as a pet kind of metaphor than actually family metaphor. But once more, that's little things you can nitpick all day. And the third thing that kind of did bother me, nowadays Hazel can actually go the fair road just using their home. They're very easy to access. That's the thing that added that was a little bit annoying for me because I did enjoy the original series that every time the constable wanted to sort of have a problem or disappear and Timmy can't get to them, he had to sort of think outside of the box to be a very creative way to actually go there, or lazy way, because sometimes they have this sort of easy loophole for Tim to go to Farewell while using Casa Wanda. And this one is just, oh, yeah, they live next door. Like, you just open the door, Farewell's there. Yeah, I feel that's sort of lazy or maybe could be creative. Depends what they do in the next few episodes or next season if they get a season 2. But besides that, that's the only thing I can think of they actually added, make them more interesting. But besides that, I did enjoy all this sort of ride. I did enjoy they reset Cosmo and how to fix Wanda. But that's all my opinion, at least for now. In fact, I mean, ask this: did I miss something very specific of an era of Cosmo and Wanda? What did I miss to actually clarify their personalities? Tell me down below, or let me know. In fact, tell me which era you prefer, the season 0 or this new era of New Wish, or prefers era 2. Tell me down below. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.